get all set up here. All right, expand your window. What? Why am I on the side? No, you're supposed to be on top. I like you on top. Where are you at? Hi, Graham.
Hi, Corey.
How are you this evening?
I'm good.
Shit.
Good. I'm not on top. I know that.
Hey, man, one of us has got to be on top.
Oh, boy.
Because right now we're just kind of side by side, and I mean, that just... Smoke your bowl, and I'll introduce the show. Let's just move on. Hi, kids. My name's Corey. I am Drunk Thoughts. On this week's episode of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, welcome. Graham's taking a big hit of his bowl. Why don't you introduce yourself after you exhale? Look at that.
My name is Graham Stepniewski. I will be your dutiful high opinions this evening.
Dutiful?
Or this morning. Who knows? Who knows when you're listening to this? You know? You could be listening to this in the morning at work, or you could be listening to this at night, getting stoned alongside us. I don't know what you're doing, but I know
or drinking.
That I will be your high opinions right now.
And there's one thing we can count on in this show. Graham's getting high.
Mm-hmm. Preach it, brother.
High-elujah. High-elujah.
High-elujah. I like that.
Yeah. You can steal that. Have that. Trademark.
High-elujah. Trademark. TM.
TM.
Oh, boy.
The only podcast that gets you high-elujah. Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions. How have you been, sir?
Yes. I've been good. We weren't able to record last week because I was feeling a little bit of pain in my chest. And, you know, being somebody who worries the worst about everything, I immediately worried the worst. It's fine. I am just dealing with a little bit of a torn muscle in my chest from stretching it the wrong way.
Was that confirmed, or is that still speculation?
That's still speculation, but I know the feeling. I know what the feeling of a pulled muscle is, and that's exactly what this is. And so I know for a fact that whenever I would do, like I would
don't do
motion, it. I'm not going to. I'm emulating what it would be, and then I would like arch my back backwards, and I would like push down,
kind of like this.
Doing that. Yeah, kind of like that. I would like press down on it, and like pressing down on my chest for some reason was like cracking it.
That felt good.
Right, felt very good. But until I realized that it literally was just tearing a muscle open, and it got worse every time I would do it. So I've not been doing it, and it's been healing up. There's still a little bit of like tension pain, as if like a muscle is healing, but
it is reduced. It's getting
reduced. Better. Yeah, severely reduced.
That's good.
And I know that it wasn't the weed that was doing it, because when I stopped smoking weed for a day, the pain got worse. So,
So what's a logical person to do?
Keep smoking weed.
Smoke more weed.
Smoke more weed. Exactly. Get back on the horse.
Or fall off it again. Cocaine. Who gives a shit? One horse. We were left at the stables a long time ago, sir.
Oh yes, very, very, very true.
This is good brandy.
Is it good brandy? You're being fancy today, aren't we?
Yes, indubitably, sir.
Indubitably, yes. I'm just being kind of a trash person with my water bottle with a straw.
It's all right, I rock the Nalgene too. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
It's got Sasquatch on it. See, Bigfoot.
Very nice. But this is not what the listeners came to listen to. Us blathering.
What fucking listeners, man?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's fucking.
Kind of trailed off there. You wanna try that again? Well, I'm glad your chest is subsiding. I know you're concerned about that. So I wish I could show you my bruise, but I'm pretty sure that's not allowed on YouTube because it's right next to my. Took a puck to the thigh playing hockey. I play goalie in hockey for the listeners who don't know, the listener who doesn't know. I play goalie in hockey, and I bought the wrong pants. And these pants have no protection on the inner thigh. And when you have a piece of frozen rubber coming at you at like 60 to 100 miles an hour, depending,
hurts.
It hurts. That padding is not for show, folks.
Startles the skin and the meat underneath.
Oh, the meat was startled. It was scared, and it was all sorts of. It was the Skittles of bruises, man. Fucking taste of rainbow. Yeah. This bruise was every goddamn color I've ever known. Like, it went from red to purple to green to yellow to blue to indigo to violet. Like, holy shit. I went through the whole gambit of colors on my thigh. It was nuts. And I'm pretty sure I have some, like, popped blood vessels in there. It's all, like,
nice.
Weird feeling. It's not pretty. It's fucking weird.
I know the listeners at home cannot see this, but I need you to do that motion for me. Okay.
My little squiggle of the hand.
And
it's literally like
squiggling his hand upwards.
And we're talking. This is 6 inches from my my meat and potatoes, so to speak. So all I can say is, don't forget to buy a cup, folks. Cup saves lives. Yeah. I'm super glad I was wearing mine, but it's been a wild ride watching that bruise like develop, and it's like, I didn't know the skin could turn that color.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like, what?
It's got to be real assaulted, though. Real startled. Real traumatized, so to speak.
It's fucking... It's gnarly, to say the least.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure. I've never had any serious injury, I should say. Like, I think I've never broken any bone or anything. The most serious injury I've ever had was a sprained wrist, which I got when
by jerking off too much.
My friend's bike.
Jerking off a friend too much.
No, my friend's bike. When I was 9 years old, my friend's bike was one of those that where the brakes didn't work in the back, or so, like, you didn't have a handlebar or anything to like grab onto to brake. It was one you had to like turn the tires backwards, and it would. You
had to pedal backwards?
You had to like pedal backwards, and at a certain point it would like hit the resistance on the wheels. It was like a kid's bike. It was a weird kid's bike.
It's fucking
so
weird, man.
We're 9 years old. Yeah, it was a very weird bike.
Excuse me.
And I was at my my parents' property, going down the hill from my house, and my friend is on my bike. We'd swapped bikes for whatever reason.
As kids do.
My friend's on my bike, and my dog is sitting next to him, and there's only a little bit of space for me to go between them, dog, person. So I very narrowly go through. I managed to go, but I find that it won't break. The bike is just not breaking, and I keep like slamming the thing backwards, hoping that it will,
engage.
Finally break. Yeah, engage. And finally it does when I'm going way too fast, and I get launched like 30 feet in the air. Like I'm
30 feet, really?
Felt like it.
It was probably more like 3 feet.
15. It was probably like 15. But it was. I fell pretty far. I remember.
Do you realize how far 15 feet is? Like, my apartment's not 15 feet. Like,
oh, come on. And that's roughly the distance I fell.
That's gnarly.
Yeah.
But all you got was a sprained wrist?
All I got was a sprained wrist. So
you're pretty lucky, man.
To kind of add an addendum to this, when I was a little kid, when me and my brother were kids, my brother was always someone who was very careful and like scared to like get like do anything that might hurt him or whatever, and he would consistently come back.
So he was the smart one of the group.
He was the smart one of the two of me. Of the two of us, and he.
I was going to say the two of you. Wait a minute, your brother is real, right? Like, this isn't a Fight Club situation. Spencer is just your Tyler Durden.
No. Just
Graham, are you carving wood in your sleep?
It's a Freudian slip. Anyway,
hold on. No, I want to explore this theory that Spencer is just your like night persona. What if Spencer is sober Graham?
We'll discuss this another time. But so when we were younger, Spencer was one who would not want to get hurt or get in trouble or do anything that might get him hurt. But he would consistently show up to the house with like his face was skinned. He would like fallen off of the 4-wheeler and just gone like completely fucked. And I was somebody very nice. Looks very nice. I was somebody who very consistently sought out destructive things that would probably cause me pain or kill a child, flinging myself from a 20-foot rock wall, which was just in front of our house.
For the record, this is explaining so much of your persona.
Yes. So
like I'm understanding like
so much.
All of Graham Stepniewski right now. Like, oh shit. Click.
So yeah, just I would just fling myself from shit. I would yeet myself, so to speak, from shit. Word? And I never got hurt except for that one time when it was completely within my power to control it, but the bike failed. So that's funny to me that the one time anything happened was, not because I wasn't being careful. Like I was actually not intending to. I was not going very fast. I didn't want to go very fast that day for whatever reason. I had done way crazier shit. I was just being careful for whatever reason because it was a bike I was not familiar with, and for some reason that's the day that I got a sprained wrist. And that's that's the worst thing that's ever happened.
Never broken a bone or like even a toe.
Never broken a bone.
No.
I may have. I've had some pretty bad like stubbed toes, but I never enough that I would consider it to be broken. I've also considered myself to have a very high pain tolerance.
So yeah, I'm in the same bank. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and I do a lot of stupid shit. I've sprained my ankle. I've gotten more bruises than I care to count. I've broken my big toe. Yeah, I've done some stupid shit, but I have never officially gone to the doctor with a broken bone. Like I said, I think I broke my toe going down the stairs. I used to go up and down stairs really fucking fast as a kid, just like... And I tripped once and like caught my toe going down as
yeah.
And that was kind of how it sounded. And yeah, I just kind of was like, okay, maybe slow it down by like 75%.
Right.
Yeah, I sprained my ankle jumping out of a tree when I was like 5, 6. That was fun. You ever gotten stitches?
Yes. I've gotten stitches for my wisdom teeth.
Oh.
And also when for my tongue, they put stitches on my tongue. Because when I was at a dentist appointment one time, they were doing a filling and the drill slid across and tore the like that protection thing. They usually have the like rubber like plate that they put over your mouth when they're doing the cavity, and it just like the drill, they lost control of it and it slid across the thing, tore that open and went and tore open my tongue. Yeah, and I just remember this is from my perspective, this is how it goes. I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I feel a little cold streak on my tongue. I just, because my mouth is completely numb. Just a little. Yeah,
you're probably hopped up on like laughing gas at that point.
I didn't have laughing gas.
Some sort of local anesthesia, maybe.
Completely numb. Just completely numb. No anesthesia. So I'm just sitting there. I actually had to drive after that. My parents were out of town. So I am sitting there, a little cold feeling. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then but at the time that it happens, I hear my dentist go, oh. That's all the sound he makes. Oh, 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 oh. And then he
That
starts
is what
reaching.
They do. Doctors, that's what they do. They're not oh shit, it's oh.
Oh, and he starts reaching.
That one got away from me.
He starts reaching for like napkins and like towels and stuff that are like
Gauze is the word you're looking for.
Well, no, it was. I'm not sure if it was gauze in this particular instance. It was like some sort of paper towel.
Nurse, I need paper towels, stat.
Or it was like the same. They looked like napkins. You know, they looked like napkins. But whatever it was, he starts reaching for them, and he just starts,
Nurse, I nicked him. We need the brawny.
We need the brawny. Yes, exactly. So he just starts using just starts like reaching in my mouth with all these like napkin type materials, and just coming out, and they're just like bright red. They go in white, they come out red.
It's like a magic trick.
literally. And I'm like, and I go, huh? And he's like, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
This is exactly what you want to hear in that situation.
You're fine. And yeah, exactly. And then they finished up, and at the very end, they didn't say anything until the very end. And finally, at the very end, they're like, okay, so Graham, we gave you a few stitches. I had noticed.
Yeah, it's like
we gave you a few stitches.
Do tell.
The drill. We lost control of the drill. Kind of cut your tongue a little bit. He said, "Good thing is, the mouth heals faster than any other part of the body."
This is true.
Probably because it is just covered in saliva, and saliva is partially something that helps like.
Heal. It's got healing properties. That's why hedgehogs lick themselves.
Properties. Exactly.
You ever seen that?
I have. Yeah.
A hedgehog like with the foam and shit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could lick my butt that way.
No, just I didn't need to hear you say that. I didn't need to hear you say that. You know.
And yet just you still put it on. No, let's keep going.
Well, that image just burned into my brain. Oh God, why do you do this?
It's like, I mean, you've had calamari, right? Think about ladies and gentlemen, I have Broken Graham. Hey, nice haircut.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good. The back looks really good. Barbara did a good job. Let's see. I, believe it or not, have 11 stitches on my face. Alone.
At this exact moment, or have had?
Have had. Cumulative.
Okay.
11 stitches on my face.
Very nice.
Fucking Frankenstein over here, son. And then I've had 6 in my finger. Yeah, when I was 4, there was a playground near my house, and my parents had gone to like some sort of like dinner date, like function, like a banquet thing. And so I was left in the care of this 16-year-old friend, and she was letting me play on the playground that was near our house. And I tried to climb up the metal slide, and I slipped and just went kadoosh and smacked my chin on this slide and slit my chin open.
Yeah. And
proceeded to basically give this 16-year-old girl like PTSD because she flipped. She was so scared. You know, I'm bleeding profusely. We get in the car. She brings me to my parents, pulls me out of the banquet, and is like, "I'm so sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Rokes. You did it." And they're like, "It's fine. Just take him to the hospital. Like, we'll take him. He's fine. Like, he'll live." It's one of my first memories, to be honest, and just like, I remember doing that, and this girl just flipping out. So that was pretty entertaining. Yeah. Before that, so that was like one of my first memories when I was like 4 or 5. Before that, when I was like 2, I got 3 stitches on my lip because I was apparently jumping like a little shithead from like furniture to furniture as like a little kid, and I tried to jump from the couch to the table and missed, and just kadoosh on the edge of the table. And so I had to get 3 stitches when I was very, very young. If I shave, you can still see the scar. It's pretty cool.
You know, you've reminded me. One of my earliest memories is also getting severely hurt. I was sitting on the upper side, like the back side of the couch, when I was probably 3, and I fell off and cracked my chin super hard. so bad that I still have a scar on my chin that is now covered by my beard. But whenever I shave it or I have like a thin beard, it's very noticeable if I crinkle my chin. It's just this massive scar on my chin.
Probably something you should have gotten medical attention for and you just never did.
Probably. I don't know if I don't remember the medical attention. I don't remember if my parents got took me and got stitches. I was just I was 3 years old, so the only thing I do remember is sitting on the couch and falling off. That's my entire recollection of that.
So let's see, and then I have 5 stitches right here under my eye. So, and this story goes way back. So harken back, if you will, spring 2004. Cell phones were still up and coming. Y2K was still believed to be a thing, yet we were 4 years after it. And I was living in Wisconsin, of all fucking places. Mm-hmm. And I played baseball. I played the baseball, and I played outfield. And we're doing practice. And the coach says, "All right, Rokes, here's one for you." And he hits me a nice pop fly, to practice my catching. And I put my glove up. I'm in position, and here comes the ball. Smacks me right on the chin, or right on my face, right beneath my eye, right here. I can still, if I feel it, actually, you can, I feel, it feels funny. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Right underneath my eye. Hit me hard, hit me good. And my mom, I go home, I tell my parents what happened. I can, it's red, it's starting to swell, like any bruise does. My mom flips out, takes me to the hospital. They do x-rays, they do all this sort of tests, and they say, he's fine.
Any mom does.
Of course. I love my mom. She's very protective. She's a good mom. And they tell me cheekbone's fine, sinus is fine. He's just going to have a big ass bruise. Nothing's broken. And sure as shit, I wake up the next day and this eye is swelled shut. I got a bruise. I got a shine to the size of I look like I got punched by Mike Tyson repeatedly.
Well, what did you expect, Rokes? You got hit.
I know. That's exactly what I expected. But it's just, terminal velocity, bitches. That shit hurt. And I pissed off my brother because people were like, "Oh shit, what happened?" I'm like, "Carl unleashed the fury." And Carl's like, "Why are you telling people I punched you?" It's because it's more believable than I took a baseball to the face. But yeah, he was a big dude. Carl was a big dude. He still is. Anyway, so that heals up. But even at the time, my nickname became Scott Smalls, which if you've ever seen The Sandlot, he takes a fly ball to the face, so Smalls. Plus, the new kid in town, all that. So, and that was my reputation for a good while was, "You're killing me, Smalls."
Yeah.
It's fine. Honestly, it's not the worst nickname I've had. The worst one was Dorothy, and we're not going to talk about that tonight. So, cut to a year later, almost a year later to the date, March 2006. 2005, sorry. I'm drunk. I've had 3 brandies and I've half a beer.
Yes.
I'm in gym class, and a kid comes past me, and I'm playing defense on basketball. We're doing basketball in gym class, playing defense. And this kid comes up, goes up for a layup, and he shoots the shot, and he comes down, and his elbow scrapes the side of my face. Comes down on the left side of my face now, almost a year to the date. So everybody's obviously just like, "Oh shit, it's the return of Scott Smalls. You're killing me, Smalls." My face is swelling up, and the grit of his elbow had sliced me open. That weenus?
Yep.
Which you can't lick, by the way. Try it. You won't be able to. You want to lick my weenus?
Fine. You'll have me do this. Oh, Jesus.
Do it. Do it up while I finish the story. Everybody watch Graham try to lick his weenus. Come on, Gene Simmons. You can do it. Look at him. He's trying to get there. He thinks he can do it. He's got faith.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I never thought I could do it. It's. I just wanted to give it the old college try.
Yeah, well, that's what you do now these days.
Dislocated my arm.
Let's not. This is an episode on injuries, but let's not. Right. We'll get to that one next, the shoulder surgery. But so I go to the doctor, and it wasn't a deep cut, but it was a wide cut. and he had sliced open my cheek, and so they put 5 stitches right beneath my eye. So yeah, so you got 5 here, 3 here, and 3 here. It's 11 total on my face, and then 6 on my finger. I was trying to cut a knot off of a tree, and I probably should not have done that. And so I sliced through the knot and into my finger all the way down to the bone, not realizing what I was using was a hunting knife and not a wood knife because I'm an idiot. Yeah. And it was actually pretty hysterical because it was so smooth. It was just like, and it felt like a paper cut. And I go, ow. And I shook my finger hard and sucked on it, went inside, tried to like rinse it off. And then like my parents come in, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I cut myself. And my mom takes one look at it and goes, oh, you need stitches. Rush me off to the hospital, get the stitches done. I come back, and my brother Carl's pissed at me. And he's like, what? And he was like, you cut yourself. I'm like, yeah, I know. I just got stitches. And he goes, yeah, well, did you do this when you cut yourself? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I know. I had to clean the ceiling and the roof of the garage floor because blood was splurting everywhere as you waved your finger around. So he's like, I had to clean it up, you asshole. Good times.
Didn't happen to me, but I'll cap
this
off
quote,
with the worst. It was my old boss at a grocery store in Gig Harbor, Washington, who he's very, very good with the bandsaw, using it.
Or was.
He is very good. This was years ago.
Based on our discussions. I don't know where this is going.
He's been doing it for, probably 20 years at this point. But this was back in, I want to say 2015, 2016. And it was just like he'd kind of gotten so confident with it that he wasn't thinking about it as much anymore. And didn't cut off his fingers, but he basically like cut off just the front of his,
like the layer of skin on the top of your or the front of your hand.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was awful. And I had some coworkers when I was there who like it had happened when they had just started. So
those fuckers are traumatized.
They were like traumatized early in their time at that job. It was
like, see what I just did? Don't do that.
Don't do that, kid.
OSHA 101.
Also, call a hospital, call an ambulance. Get a coroner.
That escalated quickly. Get him a body bag.
Get a coroner. But yeah, that was I didn't see it, but I saw some photos. They took some photos for God knows what reason. They were like, hey, put out your hand.
High five.
That's what TikTok is now, but that was like back in 2015, 2016 or something like that. Like, what the fuck?
My God.
So yeah, that made me never want to use the bandsaw. But they always
that what you pussied out in production design and film school?
I just have a healthy fear of big machines with giant blades that can, at a moment's notice, cut a part of you off.
If I may, I was really, I don't want to say impressed, but like shocked at how, I don't want to say cavalier, because they did give us a good overview and they did a good job like preparing the students at VFS to use that kind of machinery, but just kind of like, okay, here's an hour and a half overview of the equipment.
Now just go ahead and make something.
Yeah, it was like, here's a bandsaw, here's a circular saw, here's a sander, which doesn't seem like much, but like, you fuck around with that thing, it could do some shit.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of were just like, all right, don't be stupid, go. And it's like, have you met the human race? They're fucking stupid. So I don't know. I've taken woodworking class and I've taken shop classes. I'm not good at it. By no means am I a good carpenter or woodworker. But like, I know how to fear and respect those machines
Mm-hmm.
So I was okay, but just they're like, here's a nail gun.
Yeah.
Go.
My brother's a woodworker. I'm around him when he's working in the shop, and I have my camera and I'm filming him doing stuff. But like, he's working with it. I'm not. I'm staying away from it. I just have a healthy,
Respect for that machinery.
Respect for the machinery, and that respect includes me staying the fuck away from it.
Some parent, I don't care who, but some parent taught him to fear and respect that escalator.
Nobody. Good reference. I like that. We've got to talk about something else, man. We got to talk about something else because this is so boring.
The whole show is boring. Get used to it.
But this especially is super boring.
I was trying to turn it into a whole episode of injuries, so we didn't have to figure out a subject matter. But
I liked your idea about talking about books. I was trying to find a segue into that, and then you just kept talking about injuries.
Yeah, we were having a good conversation. We were just kind of rolling with it. The book shit can wait. We were having a great. It was flowing. It was natural. It worked, and then you ruined the magic.
I don't know. I just had to say I was starting to get very bored.
Yeah,
the last story I told, I was reaching. I was like, I don't know about this.
Oh, I've got stories for days about injuries. I mean, you saw how I fucked up my wrist up there in Vancouver, right?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, it's still fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker, I know. Well, tell you what. Here's a segue. Horrible segue. Tell us what you're smoking tonight.
I'm still smoking that all-purpose flour, my dude.
Still? Holy shit.
I got a lot of it. And, yeah, it's fucking good.
Yeah? It's good. It's doing good.
It's
Is it a hybrid or?
No, it's a sativa, but it feels like it's a hybrid. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
especially with the name All Purpose, you kind of expect it to be a hybrid because it doesn't always put me out of commission after I smoke it. Sometimes I'm like, work, but then other times I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna chill out,
kick back, and you want to maybe kick back and read a book.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Play a game.
Look at that transition.
Play a game, read a book. What have you been reading, Corey?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Why don't we tell us about your reading for now?
Well, as you know, I'm taking a class on 19th century British novels. So I've been reading a few classics.
Such as?
First off, we have Jane Eyre.
Oh,
familiar with Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre?
Oh, yeah.
I am
never read.
Fan.
Well, I tried to read it, and that shit was drier than a nun.
I'm a big fan of the Bronte sisters' writings. They are on surface very dry, but they are so riddled with intricacies and eccentricities. They are they're the first group of writers who kind of wrote together in the same alternate universe. They created an alternate universe to write within, one that was just slightly different from our own, one where they could manipulate the rules and make things more progressive for them. And so that's why in all three of the books there are references to glowing lights that shine down on the main character when they're at their lowest. A light shining from an alternate world, and all three of the books, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, and the Tenant at something Hall, I forget what that one's called. They all reference a glowing light from another world. So in the very, very early 1800s, they kind of had this interconnected world that they had created in their private writings, which have never been revealed, but they're
Wildfell.
published. Sorry?
Wildfell Hall.
Wildfell Hall, that's right. They were the kind of the first writers, arguably, in modern times, so to speak, that were writing within this kind of shared universe in novel form. Arguably, Shakespeare was doing the same thing, and some other classic Greek writers, but this is the first time in the novel, in the prose writing format, that we are seeing evidence of kind of a shared alternate world. One where they could manipulate the rules and show a world that they wanted to see instead of the one that they were seeing in life. So I've been reading that. We also the first book we read this semester was Northanger Abbey, which is Jane Eyre's final novel and arguably her most personal.
Jane Eyre or Bronte?
Sorry, of Jane Austen. This is the final book of Jane Austen, and Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma. But this was her final book, and it's very kind of simple in premise, about a woman who goes to Bath in England for vacation, falls in love with a man who is a clergyman, and finds out that his father, he's wonderful, and his sister is wonderful, but his father and his eldest brother, who's going to inherit Northanger Abbey, are just these devious fucking assholes. And so a lot of terrible things happen along the way, but it's a very simple novel in plot structure. I absolutely loved it. Most recently, we read Great Expectations. You'll probably know that one, Dickens' classic, Great Expectations. Yeah. And then we are just about to start, or should have started. I'm starting it tomorrow. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde.
There's an
which
interesting
I'm very
one.
excited about because it's the only one of the three that I haven't read yet. So,
I think you're gonna. Have you read Oscar Wilde?
I've read all his plays. I haven't read any of his prose.
I was gonna say, I feel like you're gonna like Oscar Wilde.
From what I understand, whereas his plays are almost entirely comedic and humorous, and very little to go on but simple whimsy. The prose is much darker and more existential, and that is something I'm very excited about because that's right up my alley, baby.
Yeah, I'd never read Oscar Wilde, but I know, I studied all these books in my British literature class in high school. I didn't read them because I was a slacker. But yeah, from what I remember about Wilde's writings and how I know about you, I think you're really going to enjoy that that writing style. So
yeah,
good luck with that. We'll have to do a follow up, Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions novels Part 2, Bardus. It's a hand. Tramp's holding up a book of a hand.
It's the Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yeah, I don't know from what I know of the story on that one, I was always kind of like, what? But all I know is from the movie version of Alan Moore's comic, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, that combines, all the fantastical Victorian era novels, Frankenstein, Dracula, Dorian Gray, Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I loved that movie when I was 5 years old.
Yeah, I believe it. When you were 5 years old, the movie doesn't hold up super well, especially when you know that Sean Connery hated it, and it's widely believed that's the movie that considered why Sean Connery retired from acting.
Because he was like, "Oh, is this what filmmaking is becoming?"
Yeah, he was not happy. I enjoyed it too. I owned it for a while. I just thought it was a great movie. I loved the idea behind it, and I would love to read the comic, but I've heard the comic is not the same. So I'm like, do I even want to try it? But anyway,
I've heard the comic is better. I've also heard that the comic has some very insensitive representations of different ethnicities.
Yeah.
But it's also probably because it was replicating or
That era.
commenting on the 19th century British era.
I was going to say it takes place.
So that's a good way to argue it, but in like, for example, my prof was explaining that she used to use the comic book to end the 19th century British novels class, because she felt it was a good way to kind of wrap it up. It's like, let's read something modern that talks about characters from the 19th century. Instead of diving into all the other ones, we can look at these. This is a fun kind of still very literary, because it's Alan Moore, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, right. Very contemporary
you still get to like really experience kind of what those characters are like, and then you find which ones you're most interested in. You go and dive into it in your own free time. I think that's a brilliant way to do it, but I understand her reasoning as to why she felt not to do it anymore, and we're replacing it with another book I'm forgetting the name of, but we're gonna dive into that once Picture of Dorian Gray is over and finish out the semester.
All right, sounds like we have follow-up later on. But
we got a follow-up later on.
So I just finished reading a book. I remember you recommended it to me. I remember thinking, yeah, okay, whatever, when you suggested it to me. I don't know why. I think it's just because you and I have just very different tastes. And it's not a slight. That's just being honest.
No,
like we have
fair.
Especially when it comes to literary, like just like you just said about like the Bronte sisters, you were like, oh, I love this shit. It gets me wet. And I'm just like, no, I'd rather get the Bronte sisters wet than read their books. Like, no. And
Sure.
And that's, so when I remember you suggested it to me and I just kind of like brushed it off. And then Hannah was reading the same book, and I was like, oh, and obviously no offense to you, but I'm like, oh, here's a girl I'm dating. I want to share her interests and try to have common ground.
Right.
And so I checked it out, and I'm glad. Like, I'm glad that you suggested it to me, and I'm glad that she kind of brought it up, and I just finished it. It's Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett.
Follett.
Follett. Whatever. FOLLETT. Sure. Follett. Anyway, book Pillars of the Earth. Book that was written back in 1989, my birth year. Awesome. And it's, I don't know. I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I anticipated. I find myself digging the fiction based on fact books. This is the second one. This is the second series I've read that is a fiction based on fact. The other one being The Work and the Glory, which was a 9-book series about a fictional family following the beginnings of the Mormon religion and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is a whole series of following this family, and each member of the family took a different stance that how people reacted to Joseph Smith and the Golden Plates, and basically followed him for like 20 some odd years. And Pillars of the Earth, there was a lot of similarities where it started at one point in time, but unlike Work in the Glory, Pillars of the Earth just had time jumps. The book was broken into segments and had these time jumps. It was like 10 years later. And I'm not upset about that. I thought that was a good way to do things, because it kept things interesting. Yeah. You could see these people at different points in their lives.
These are the important times. Like, we don't need to dive into this section of time because this is when it was really bad. And then for this time, it was nothing very interesting. It's like, we're just going to jump over the time where it's not interesting and not try and make it interesting. We're just going to.
Exactly. And so, and for those who don't know, just a brief log line, 3-sentence log line. Pillars of the Earth is about a fictional town in England during the 12th century.
Yes,
1100s. And the building of a cathedral.
Yeah.
And the people who are involved in doing so, such as the religious leader who runs the town, and he's trying to be usurped by the higher ups in the religious community. You have the guy who's building the cathedral and his family, and then we also follow the antagonist, who is the earl or leader of the neighboring town, who covets much of what these folks have. I think that's a good way to summarize it in just general.
It is based off of the building of Salisbury Cathedral, which I believe is actually they go to the building site of Salisbury, and Tom Builder tries to get a job there within the first 100 pages of the book.
Yep. Tom being the guy who's building the cathedral at the beginning of the book.
I believe it's within the first 30 pages of the book. He goes.
It's in the first part. It's in the first time zone, so to speak.
Yeah, it's kind of a nod saying like, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about Salisbury, just not Salisbury.
Called Kingsbridge.
Kingsbridge. What a wonderful place. And with such horrible people trying to take it down.
Duloc is a perfect town.
And I have loved that book for many years. I first read it when I was in 6th grade.
That's impressive.
I was an active reader when I was very young. It was about 8th or 9th grade when I suddenly, I think my own creative writing kind of got inside my head. So whenever I would read, I would think about my own writing, and it started making me disconnect from reading, making it difficult to actually like finish stuff. But before that, I was an active reader. I was once challenged to read 12 books over the course of a Christmas break in 8th grade, and I did it. I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit, and read the entire Percy Jackson book series.
So that's like 6. So we're up to 10.
Yeah, 10. And then I read, I think it was the first time I read Snow Crash and The Diamond Age. So
okay.
Yeah, I threw on 2 books I didn't know, and then just read a bunch of books that I...
that's not fair. It's okay. I cheated too.
Fine.
Don't worry.
It's fine.
We had this thing in high school or middle school. It was called the Accelerated Reader Program or something like that, where they came out every year. They would give you a shit ton list of books. It was like 50 books. Mm-hmm. And then each book had a point value based on the complexity of the plot, the length of the book, and other factors. And so you could, and then during the course of the year, you would read a book and then go take a test on the teacher's computer. You'd go up to the teacher and say, "Teach, I read this book. I want to take the test on it." They would set you up. You'd take like a 20-question test just to prove that you read it. Mm-hmm. And then if you got it, you got those points. And then each year you had to accumulate a certain amount of points. It was like 50 points. So you could either read a shit ton of easy books, like the Percy Jackson series. Let's be honest, they're young adult. They're Harry Potters. Yeah. Or you could read more complicated books like The Pillars of the Earth or Lord of the Rings, or what I did was The Sword of Shannara, which, if you haven't read that, it is the most blatant fucking ripoff of Lord of the Rings that I've ever read. Yeah. Well, it was almost a parody.
Most things are ripoffs of Lord of the Rings.
No.
Are you familiar?
No,
with,
hold on. We're not going to gloss over this. You it is insane how like one for one it is. Huh. The only major difference is instead of a ring, it's a sword that they're trying to take care of. But like you have the reluctant hero, you have the fellowship, you have them breaking apart, and you have a human, a elf, and a dwarf who team up. You have 2, like underlings. I can't remember what they're called, but they're not hobbits, but they're underlings. Like they're smaller people. Right. and they're teamed up and they go off looking for the sword, and they're followed by a gangly, like, undead creature, Gollum style. It is Terry Brooks copy and pasted. I am so surprised this book got published.
Yeah.
Because it is insane how close it is to Lord of the Rings. But so back to the point, and I'll finish my story and you can continue just about the cheating. By the time they did this program, I had read all Lord of the Rings because this was when the movies were coming out, and all the Harry Potters up to this point. And they ranked both those series super fucking high. So I went in like on the second day of school, took all the tests I needed for the year. I would do like Lord of the Rings, and it was like, boom, 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 done. And then next year, Harry Potter, which was like, I think 4 books up to Goblet of Fire, and then 1 book left. And so I did Sword of Shannara. That was it. So,
yeah,
that's my story.
Are you familiar with the Dragonlance book series? You've probably seen that logo in fantasy sections. Dragonlance.
I've heard of it. I mean, I used to work at Barnes and Noble, so
it's a offshoot of D&D, and for whatever the name of the company that runs D&D, Magic Shore, whatever.
I'm too lazy to look it up.
Dragonlance is an interesting kind of like connected D&D writers universe. And I read a couple books in that series, and for a 8-year-old, I thought that they were pretty cool. And I thought it was pretty cool that I was reading an advanced book at 8 years old. Technically, it was advanced in the writing. It was just not good. But basically, it was the story I read was it was a blatant ripoff of Lord of the Rings, but it was just focusing on the Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli part of Lord of the Rings. And you had to go read the other like offshoot books to find the kind of Frodo and Sam version and stuff, and the Frodo and Sam were like a twin.
So you read a book by EA and you had to get the DLC.
Yes.
You had to piecemeal the story together with the DLC, and you had to pay for it. Oh, you want the Sam and Frodo version? You got to pay for it.
Yeah. So I read those series. I actually read the Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and the kind of Frodo and Sam story. But the Frodo and Sam one were kind of like twins. One's a warrior and one's a mage, like a kind of withered old mage. But the mage is like floating between being a good guy and a bad guy between the books. Like in some books he's very much a bad guy, and one book he's like kind of a good guy. And then the twin, the warrior, is like always a noble, kind of like I will protect my brother whatever it takes. Very Samwise. But the stories were very, very much just like Lord of the Rings. Like, oh, we must get the amulet to the Cave of Wonders.
Just had that MacGuffin and the destination.
Basically. Yeah, fair, exactly. Fair. But the knight and the wizard twins, they had their story that was going on at the same time as the half human, half elf, the elf woman archer, and the dwarf with an axe.
Wow. Dwarves have axes. That's not surprising.
The only thing that it was literally just, let's make the Aragorn guy a half elf, and let's make the elf a woman. Let's change nothing else. The half human, half elf is a ranger from the north.
I mean, the elf was a woman. Arwen was a woman.
I'm talking about Legolas.
Oh.
Make Legolas,
I thought you were referring to
make the Legolas character a woman. That was what the book did. It was like
that's what Lord of the Rings was missing. The bromance of Aragorn and Legolas. Oh. He was like, "Fuck you, Arwen. I'm in love with Legolas." That's what we needed. That's what it made Tolkien's story 20 times better.
Made Aragorn bi, that would have been. I think that would have been very like strong. It's like he's just conflicted over. Arwen's very hot, but Legolas can get it.
I mean, Let's cards on the fucking table. Legolas and Gimli. Ultimate bromance. Yes or no?
Ultimate bromance. Yeah, way better than Frodo and Sam. Way better than,
those two sailed away
Troy
together.
And Abed. Better than Troy and Abed in Community. That's a controversial one,
right?
But I'm going to say it.
Like Harold and Kumar. Like these two, I ship Gimli, Legolas.
Yes.
Gimlis.
Gimlis.
That's horrible. I'm never going to say that word again. But they did sail away together. If you've read the appendices of Return of the King, the end of the Fellowship is when they built a raft and they sailed away together. Like
ultimate bromance. It makes me happy.
I mean, in the ultimate Tolkien canon, not canon because this wasn't canon, Tamriel in the Hobbit movies, Tamriel refuses Legolas, so he becomes gay for a dwarf. That's what happens. Tamriel. The Evangeline Lilly.
Evangeline Lilly. Oh, yeah.
From the Hobbit movies.
You know what? They stole the name. I thought you were. I was like, Tamriel is the continent in Elder Scrolls, sir. Anyway.
No, I didn't steal it. Yeah, Peter Jackson did. Thank you very much.
Peter Jackson did. Yeah. No,
you can just see him like playing. He's just like, Peter, we're ready for go for picture. Hold on, I'm playing Skyrim.
I'm playing Skyrim. Excuse me.
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm killing a dragon here with my Phosphor.
Honestly, I could see that being a thing because, and for this reason, and this reason alone, because of the Battle of the Five Studios. The fact that everyone was just like shitting all over everything that was going on and like fighting over what should happen and what should go where and who, like, what actors had like made a splash in the media, and so they needed to force in there into a role that wasn't necessarily in the book. They like just things like that. And Peter Jackson, that's the reason that Guillermo del Toro left.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro stepped down because he could not handle just the bullshit that they were putting everybody through, and he was like, I either have control or fuck you, and they said, okay, fuck you, and so Peter Jackson was kind of forced to take over, and he didn't want to. He just wanted to step back and produce it. He wanted he liked.
No, we've talked about that ad nauseum.
But for the listeners who haven't heard us talk about that, because that's a long time ago now.
That is, but at the same time, like, we're talking about books. We need to talk about Hollywood politics.
Sure.
We can go back down then to that. If you want, let's tie it back. Read this book that I've started like several times and I need to fucking finish it. Anything You Can Imagine is the title. Anything You Can Imagine. And it is the story of the making of Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies from an author who followed Peter Jackson throughout the entire part. And it is, I've read like 3/4 of it. And then that's when I started film school and I fell off. I was too busy to continue reading. But it's super fucking fascinating just to read the behind the scenes like things and learn how like things kind of went down. And then he deep dives into like how the movies came to be. I mean, we had Ralph Bakshi's with his 1970s versions of the movies. And then the Beatles wanted to make Lord of the Rings for a long time. People don't know that.
That's a very fun part of history.
And can you tell me who they wanted to direct it? Big prolific director in the 70s. Mostly known for like horror and scary movies.
Fuck, I knew it, and I just forgot his name.
Stanley Kubrick.
Fuck, yeah, my God, that's what I was literally trying to say.
Beatles wanted to make a Lord of the Rings films with Stanley Kubrick, but so anyway, read that book. I'll finish reading it, and we'll talk about that on a later episode. But let's dive back to Pillars of the Earth, because like
that book is so good, man.
It was shockingly good, and how it was able to. I mean, this was like Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
I think that Game of Thrones would not have the structure that it does, and not the attention to like character development without this book. I think that this book was hugely influential on Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. In just 1,000 pages, you get a full Game of Thrones level like political battle of real history, but also a fabricated history for this specific town that is connected to real history. And
a lot of the information you get is legit, like how how life was, how people were treated, how cathedrals were built, and how architecture was in the 1100s.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Like, it's all relatively accurate information.
Yeah, and it feels very medieval. You know, there are dirt roads and the very few houses, and there are very few people really around until they actually start building the fucking thing.
And even then,
and even then, there's barely anybody.
But they're still, they talk about like, oh, it's a one-room house and the privy's in the back and you got a little garden, and the only way you can survive is you got to work all day and make a living. Like, there's no leisure time, there's no downtime.
I think
it's hardcore.
It's one way to put it is that this is kind of like it's a series. You've started reading the second one, I believe.
Yeah, I'm like a third of the way in.
Reading through the series is kind of like playing through The Sims, leaving it for a while and then coming back, and the world has just kind of grown up and done a bunch of things without you, and that's what going from the first to the second to the third and back to the prequel kind of feel.
And they have a new one coming out this fall. Did you know that?
That's going to go even further back, isn't it, or something?
No. It's a full on sequel to the third book, because the fourth book was a prequel.
Oh, they're doing it in the 1700s now.
Keep talking, I'll find out.
I could totally see them doing it all the way up until him writing books about Kingsbridge all the way up until the modern day, doing just different conflicts, doing World War II, doing different things.
1700s. It's coming out.
I mean, there's so much to.
September. It's called The Armor of Light, Kingsbridge Book 5.
Huh.
And it takes place it starts in 1770.
Huh. Well, I look forward to it. I need to finish I still haven't gone and finished the third book, because the third book released when I was still when I was in my kind of rut of not being able to read as well or as efficiently as I used to. But I need to go back and finish the third book, read the prequel, and now read this new book that's coming out, because I love me a good Ken Follett Kingsbridge story. They're all juicy.
Yeah, I've been enjoying World Without End, and I gotta say the audiobook, which is how I've been primarily consuming both these books, the guy does a great fucking job. Mm-hmm. It's like shockingly good at the voices and his timbre with how it just flows. John Lee is the guy's name.
Very good.
I don't know if he's doing all the voices, but I kind of have the inkling that he does. Like, I can't confirm it, but it does. It sounds like he's just doing impressions, and yet he's like, you fully kind of like, you believe, it's like, okay, that's how Aliena would sound. I mean, it's a little more masculine, obviously, as a man, but like that tender, soft voice.
Is it the same guy carries for Pillars of the Earth and World Without End? And
he's doing.
Nice.
Yeah, I started the audiobook for World Without End, which is the sequel. It takes place 200 years later, and he's doing it again, and it's even different. Like, he pulls out different accents, he pulls out different inflections, so you have a difference between Murfin and Godwin, all these characters as the story progresses. I'm just really impressed. I just think he deserves a good shout out. Like, narrators to audiobooks do not get the praise they deserve. Shit, right. One of the audiobooks I downloaded and I just haven't listened to it yet is Andy Serkis for Lord of the Rings. I'm excited to listen to that.
My brother's been listening to that one. He said it's fantastic. I listened to the first little bit of it and I thought it was really good. I just the thing about audiobooks is that you kind of need a task to do to make it worth your while.
Yeah, you can't just sit there and just be like,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm the
when I go into the dark room for photography, I often take audiobooks because I can be there for several hours, and that's just a good time to listen to audiobooks.
Yeah. I do it when I found I've been listening to while I'm editing at work, or the big one is these drives to Appleton and back to visit Hannah, which I don't know what to do when she moves here later this month, because like it's going to cut in my audiobook time. But
editing.
Yeah, it's going to really just boil down to when I'm editing or, doing my commute if I'm not listening to my other podcasts.
Or you could take up exercise.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
I know. I was
Let's slow your roll, homie. Slow your roll. Come on. But no, it's been a really good book.
Take up extravagant cooking. Like cooking.
Yeah, exercise is more likely.
Hour or 2 hour cooking.
Yeah, no, I don't have the patience for that. I need to be doing. I don't know. We'll see. With Hannah around, maybe I'll have the energy to do it. I have a hard time cooking for myself, but with Hannah around, maybe maybe I could.
Audiobooks together,
but not a big deal. Yeah.
Cook and listen to audiobooks together. That sounds lovely.
She's like 75% of the way through Pillars of the Earth. I jumped over her because she was like a quarter of the way in the book when she suggested it to me, and then I started reading / listening to it, to which she considers cheating.
Yeah,
she gets it because it's, again, I've been driving 9 hours a week for the last 3 months.
It's fair,
more or less, and she's been doing the bus to come see me, and God bless her. Like, she's been putting in the effort, and I really appreciate her for it. But it doesn't make sense for her to pay twice as much and spend twice as much time in the vehicle than it does for me to get there. So I've had a lot of opportunity to consume this media, and I have. And yes. And so she's going to finish that book, and see if she wants to continue. But it's been good. I've been really enjoying it. Like it really has a lot of Game of Thrones vibes, where no one is really the main character, or if there is, it jumps around significantly, and I appreciated that. It kind of kept me guessing. And I've told you this off air, but my only beef is it really didn't come to a climax. It really, if you're reading this book, don't expect it to come to like an ultimate battle or a one-on-one showdown or a big like dun 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 moment. It's just life.
Like that's kind of what I hoped Game of Thrones was gonna be. Honestly, was like.
That's what we got, and it was boring.
No, I honestly, I felt like we got that ultimate showdown, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
We get it; just was piss poor, but it was still. That's what I'm saying. It was
everything gets resolved in its own climactic way, but the book
Game of Thrones or Pillars of the Earth.
Pillars of the Earth, and same with Game of Thrones up until the end of the series, but like. Their stories will have climactic moments, big, very exciting things that happen, but the book itself does not have a climax. And I think that's the thing to look at is that's what Game of Thrones could have been. In the ending, it could have been could have replicated that by having we have these individual climaxes, and in the end, it just ends. It just pitters out, and this is the resolution.
No, I think Game of Thrones, they wrote themselves in a corner. They needed a big climactic thing, and they tried with first the White Walkers in the darkest episode ever to air on television, and then they had the scorching of King's Landing with Khaleesi, whatever, and it just they tried. It just didn't stick to landing. But I agree with you. I think if they had if they had focused more on the minor to culminate in the major, it would have been better. But it was very unbalanced. And Pillars of the Earth, I don't know. The way there was a lot of good little victories, but the way it reads with the time jumps and the way the chapters are set up, it just... I don't know, you just felt like it was building to something that never happened. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, okay. And you feel satisfied. It's not a bad thing. Like everything happens and you're like content with where the characters ended. You're happy. It just, I think a lot of it is people today, you and I in the same generation, we're expected for that big climactic battle. We're expecting the fight on, Darth Vader versus Luke and the big twist, or
we need the giant space beam. We can't just have WandaVision end with Wanda learn what she's done wrong and fix it. There has to be a witch who's controlling her, who also causes a space beam to shoot into the sky, and they shoot it out with their magic abilities.
No, we need the Avengers to drop a fucking country on themselves.
Exactly. Like you can't just do the simple thing. You can't just have a story end anymore. So this is what I like about Pillars of the Earth, is that it's from a time where it was like, you know what, sometimes stories just end, and this is the realistic thing, and not everything has a giant climactic moment. Even World Without End and forget the name of the third one. Those ones, I think they kind of got a little bit affected by
a column of fire.
A column of fire. Those kind of got affected by like how like modern stories are and have those bigger climactic moments. It's like why'd you fall for that? You know, you may enjoy it.
I think part of it was Follett, whatever you want to call him, wrote it a lot later. Like Pillars of the Earth is 89, but there was like a big jump.
Yeah, it was like 17 years between the first and the second book.
2007, 89 to 2007, so 18 years between the two books. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he probably might have taken influence, but on modern storytelling. But it's not to say it's bad. It's excuse me, beer.
You're having trouble there.
I'm good. It's not bad. It works. It just is. It breaks the conventions of what you, as a reader, would expect from a story.
Yeah,
and but it's still intriguing. It still works good.
All the characters are very interesting and
yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, even like the antagonists, they kind of give you, like, I don't want to say sympathy, but like understanding of like they rationalize, and you're like, okay, that's not right. I can see where you're coming from, but it's not right. So, they do a good job on that front. I did just start watching the TV series that Starz produced back in 2010. Halfway through the first episode. Yeah.
I
hope it gets better.
Yeah.
Because it's not great at the moment. And I think it's not great only for the sole fact that 30 minutes in, every scene feels like a previously on Pillars of the Earth. It's rushed. They're trying to get to the story, and this story is so rich and in depth that they're glossing over the details. And it makes sense. If you haven't read the book, maybe it's a lot better. Sorry?
You've already found what the problem with the series is that they were like, we got to get to the story, and they forgot that the story is everything that happens in the book. Literally, like it needed to be a 30-hour series, and even then, probably 40.
Yeah, it's 8 hour or 8 episodes. I don't know how
something like that. I don't know.
It's 8 episodes, and I don't know how long each episode is. And it just feels so I don't want to say even rushed, because that's not even the right word. Like the pacing feels okay. It just, each scene, the cutting and the style and the storytelling just feels like a previously on episode of Pillars of the Earth. And it's like, oh, this person's pissed and this person dies and this happens.
Yeah.
And it's just. Yeah, if they really just fleshed it out and gave it its just desserts, if they took those scenes, everything that's happening in the scenes that we get, but it's just slow it down.
I
And
would love
take.
to readapt it. I would love to readapt that series.
But how
I
would you
think-
do it? Because like even 8 hours to tell the story of the first
Oh,
book.
I wouldn't do it in 8 hours. I would do it in. I would probably pitch 20.
You know what?
I would do it. I would do 20 40-minute episodes. Or 50.
And you honestly think in today's day and age, with the attention spans being even shorter than they were 13 years ago, you think that would keep people around?
I think so. No. If it was done well, enough. If it's done well enough,
I mean, Game of Thrones has proven if you tell a good story with good pacing, it can work. But
that's what I'm going on, baby.
It's a challenge. Even Game of Thrones at this point is like 10 years old if you think about it.
Yeah.
And I mean that was huge.
And where is Winds of Winter? Nobody fucking knows.
Martin's brain.
Yeah. Well,
so we'll get that eventually.
He's gonna die before A Dream of Spring ever even hopes to come out. So
it's a marketing ploy. He hasn't written. He's just fucking with us.
Yeah, probably. You know what? He's probably written the books, and he's probably going to release Dream of Spring posthumously. Posthumously. That's a word that's hard for me.
Posthumously? After death?
Posthumously.
Maybe. Keep his family alive. But
yeah.
No, good book. Pillars of the Earth. I definitely recommend it to those who haven't checked it out. If you're looking for good fiction based on fact and a good slice of medieval England, it's a tough read if you're a woman because it is true to form on how women were treated back then. And World Without End is even worse than that. Yeah. At times, it kind of stretches both the good and the bad. Of like, yeah, women were treated like shit, but we have this one character who really stretches beyond her means, which is nice to see. Mm-hmm. So just caveat emptor. But I mean, I bought it for $12 at my local used bookstore, and I would definitely say it's worth that much.
Oh yeah, it's a good book. It's a good sequel to a great book.
Well, both books, I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I've yet to get to A Column of Fire, the prequel series, or obviously the new one. But I'm hoping to check them out.
I got about halfway through before I got just distracted with other things in life and to my own writing, and then film school and stuff, and not having access to the book. But it's just as good. It's just as well written as the first two, if not better.
Yeah, Fallout does a really good job writing, and he's got a bunch of other books that he's written that are intriguing.
One of my favorite books by him, I think I mentioned on the show before, is Code Zero, which is a kind of classic like James Bond type story about the Russian military or the Soviet Union trying to
KGB.
The KGB trying to mess with our first launching into space, and the James Bond type character is like one of the scientists who's sending it, but he's lost his memory. It's
spoilers.
That's the beginning of the book. The main character. The premise of the book is that he has lost his memory, but he's just trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, that's one of my favorite books by him. It's kind of silly, it's one of those. It's the thing that everybody makes fun of. Is like, oh yeah, and it's the guy who's lost his memory and he wakes up in a bathroom. Like he literally wakes up in a train bathroom. I think that this is the book that most people make fun of.
The Bourne Identity kind of thing.
Yeah. This book was written in like the 80s or no.
Don't make me look it up.
Exactly. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
You keep talking. I'll look it up.
2000. It was published in 2000. So,
all right.
Yeah, it was kind of right at the same time as Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
But
Black-Side Espionage, that was big for a while. I mean,
he's always done historical
fiction.
Like Ken Follett is somebody who does historical fiction. He's very rarely done anything that isn't. there's one book, I'm forgetting what its name is, but it's about a snowstorm, and it is not historical fiction as far as I understand, unless it's about some obscure historical fiction that I'm not aware of. But for the most part, he does almost exclusively historical fiction, so it's always based around something, some event in history, such as
good on him. He's a solid writer.
Yeah, King
good
Stephen
descriptions, accurate, keeps things, gives you a good mental picture of the scene. So good on him. I'm appreciating his writing. So check it out if you haven't, kids.
Yeah. Anyway, I think
we've bored everybody enough for an hour or so.
Hour and a half, yeah. So I think
we should. You never know. I could cut a little bit of this out, so it could be an hour and change.
Good, yeah. So let's cut this here. Corey, where can we find you outside of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, and not work, not the bar, anything online, like photographs, writing that you could share with us?
Well, as of this past weekend, I am now a professional dance sport photographer.
Oh, very cool.
I have been paid for my work to photograph dance and dance sport. So you might be able to find some photos of those later on, way later on, like a couple months online, on my website, which the URL is too long to name, but you can find on my social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Roxy Boy, ROKESY. Graham, are you still part of Mad Dash Musings, or do you finally let that URL collapse?
I'm letting that go. I'm keeping that up. I like to have I like my writing to be public so people can see it, and I like to have the ability to update it, which I have not done.
I was just looking it up and like, have you updated your shit since November 2022?
I'm going to update it once I have more things to put on there. It's just difficult with classes and everything.
You have so many awesome photos. How hard is it to put them on a website?
I have to edit them. But yes,
they're print.
You can find my writings, my short stories, that horrific fucking truck outside. Good God.
Yeah, that's a joint. That's definitely ruining audio.
That's definitely ruining audio. See, folks, this is the thing that people hate in film and television and podcasts.
Oh, it's
when sound gets in the way. Anyway,
my VP of engineering. My VP of engineering loves to film on the floor about like his intros of what our business is doing. And I keep telling him, Rick, no, it's not going to work. And we do it because that's what he wants. And I make it work. But every time I tell him, like, Rick, can we not? And he's like, it's so good. It sounds like we're busy. And I'm like, that's fantastic. But nothing's worse to a video than when you hear, hi, I'm Rick Gessler, VP of engineering at, and you hear a fucking forklift horn in the background. Fucking annoying.
Fucking annoying.
Please continue. Also, where can we find you?
You should probably not say his full name on here. You're probably going to want to bleep that.
Anyway, no, he's a good dude. He's fully supportive of the podcast. I told him all about it. He thought it was a hysterical idea. And he's a great dude. Vic, super smart. I think he's background is...
He's just some ordinary dude. You just don't want to say that.
Oh, look him up, man. He's not an ordinary. He's fantastic. He is extraordinary. Rick Gessler, the VP of engineering at Delcor Systems.
Never mind. Okay.
Amazing man.
My writing at mad-musings.com, and my short stories, my shorter stories, my poetry, scenes from plays, some photographs, and that's it for
Older
me. Older photographs.
If only we could see some updated shit.
I will have that soon.
You don't even have photographs listed on your website. It's home, short stories.
My shorter stories.
You have 2.
I do, yes.
They're good photos.
Technically photographs.
I like the lake and winter photograph. That's nice. But you got some really good shots you keep sending to me. Put them up on your website.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not disparaging. I'm not trying to criticize. I think you've got some great shit.
I have a plan for those photos, and they're going to go on the website. I just need to get that plan done first.
Like that whole final project you did last semester was you told a story and photos.
That's my plan to do. Put it on my website. I just need to do the thing I'm going to do, which is make kind of like a slideshow of it.
Well, do it up.
I'm going to.
Do it.
But anyway, you can find my writings at mad-musings.com.
Old writings.
All right. I have been your High Opinions, Graham Stebniewski.
High Opinions. High-elujah Opinions.
L'chaim.
He is your High-elujah Opinions.
Yes. And you have been...
a real pain in your ass.
I guess you have been.
At least I know my place. I'm also your Drunk Thoughts, and my name's Corey Oakes. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.